late season game like it was before. So what's the difference?
I mean, the difference is, I mean, well, I kind of have to say, I mean, it's not that different. It's a huge rivalry. Every SEC game we have this year is a rivalry game, and I mean, obviously the older guys on the team, the seniors, we're gonna have that thought of that the whole game in 2012, and that's always gonna be on the back of our mind. But I mean, it's just we just got to be ready for that game and every other game this season.
What's it like going against a perennially strong team from the West? You know, just once every few years, but in the middle of the season when you know, okay, you may see them later in the year. It works out.
I mean, it's something that I guess it forces you, or it makes you want to play harder. It makes you want to compete with those guys and show that the East is, I guess, just as strong as the West. And I mean, it makes you want to prove that your team can win and just prove that you could be a dominant team.
Do you feel like as Georgia, kind of one of the favorites maybe in the East this year, given the West's dominance, I think 6 straight, you know, in the title game, are y'all kind of carrying that flag for the East? You know, y'all need to prove some things like you did against Auburn last year, some of those things.
Well, I mean, not necessarily just to prove the flag for the East. I mean, as ourselves, we carry that flag because it's always our goal to win the East, win the SEC, and move on to the Natty. But I mean, when we think of ourselves, when we think of the season we want, we have to win out the East, and we have to keep fighting. We want to represent the East in that game.
You talked about the disappointment of beating Missouri, and then having to watch them play in the championship game. What does that say about, you know, how important is every week? You can't, you know, you guys stubbed your toe twice.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that game just it really backs up and proves the claim that you can't sleep on any team, because any given Saturday, the team that wants to win and that's going to work harder to win is going to win. And I mean, you can't underestimate a team, and especially a team like Missouri. They've definitely proved themselves, and I mean, that's why we changed the way we approached every game this season, and we're not going to show the amateur side of us that we did in that game.
Which loss really stuck with you guys over last season?
Man, I can't decide which of them was worse, because they all were. All of them were heartbreaking losses. I mean, in every situation, I can't value one over the other. They all were heartbreaking losses, and that first Monday back is watching the film of all those games. You definitely saw what you could have done better, and you definitely saw what you should have done better, and just having to swallow the thought that it wasn't a fun thing to do.
You were talking about the Florida game when you said the amateur side of us.
Well, that and also the Missouri game, the Missouri game from the previous
2 years ago. Yeah. That's what people say about Georgia, is that they always seem to have a game, maybe more than every year, where they just don't show up. Or how did they lose that game? Is inexplicable?
Yeah.
You agree that that's happened for some reason the last few years? Or?
I wouldn't necessarily say it for the last few years, but I know for the Florida game we had, we let Coach Pruitt likes to call clutter. We let the clutter get to us. I mean, we had heard things of the Todd situation, and our minds immediately went to 2 games down the road, 3 games down the road. We got Todd back. We're not even worried about this game. When we get it back, it's going to be so much greater than that game. And I feel like that's what led to our downfall in that game.
And the Missouri game 2 years ago.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, coming into that game, I didn't think anybody thought that we were going to lose to them. I think a lot of the guys were remembering last year's game, the 2012 game against them, and like, okay, it's the same team from that season. They're the little brothers in the SEC. We're going to come in, dominate, clock in, clock out, and leave. And as that game went on, we quickly realized that was a darn mistake we shouldn't have made.
You seen anything to indicate tangibly, culturally, Georgia could avoid that in 2015?
I definitely, with the structure of how we do things, not the structure, but we've just changed the overall attitudes of this program this past season and this past off season. We don't. It's just not in us to let that happen. We respect every team, and some of the things Coach Pruitt instills in us is good. It's coming into fruition. Like we have a different mindset, and more mature mentally.